Our dad was born and raised in the small town of St. Vincent, Minnesota, during the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. St. Vincent is in the far northwest corner of Minnesota, near the border with North Dakota and Manitoba, Canada. The town of St. Vincent is in Kittson County, along the Red River of the North. Settlement across northwest Minnesota was closely tied to two railroads, the Great Northern and the Soo Line. Let's take a closer look at the area within the black box. This view shows the small town of St. Vincent and the Red River of the North. The Great Northern Railway served the town of St. Vincent, while the Soo Line passed just to the north, on its way to the smaller town of Noyes. Highway 75 connected St. Vincent with the county seat, Hallock. Now let's focus on the area within the purple box. This is a 1954 aerial photograph of St. Vincent, with the street names overlaid. These were the locations of some of the more notable buildings in town. Let's take a look back at the town in the early 1900s. You are standing at the intersection of the black arrows, looking to the west. The more notable buildings are labeled on the postcard. This next postcard shows St. Vincent from a few blocks west of the first location, still looking to the west. From nearly the same point, we will now shift our gaze back to the east. This next view is a little further to the east, looking east. The bank and green store are the focus of these next two images. The next postcard shows the bridge across the Red River to Pembina. This bridge connected the main streets of Pembina and St. Vincent. The Great Northern Railway had a depot in St. Vincent, along with a small stockyard. Finally, the school was located about a block to the north of Main Street. This is a map our dad drew of St. Vincent as he remembered it. The next few sections are some of his memories, narrated by his children. The town of St. Vincent.
The town hall was a long, narrow, white-painted building. It had a small entryway on the southeast end and a large furnace on the south end of the main room. The stage was on the very north end and 3 feet above the seating area. There was room for at least 200, with seats on each side of the center aisle. Short's Cafe was the gathering place in the evenings as I grew older. Most of us didn't have much to spend, so it was either a bottle of pop or an ice cream cone. Fred was the most generous with his scoops of ice cream, so we would always wait for him to make our ice cream cone. There was an ice house near Short's Cafe. Ice was taken from the river in the winter and stored in the ice house under a lot of sawdust. The Catholic Church in St. Vincent was termed a mission church, with Mass said once on Sunday. The Ladies' Aid used to put on a fall dinner at the church. Mrs. Emma was the lady that could really make delicious baked beans. The school for grades 1 to 8 was a 2-story affair, with a basement and a small enclosure on the top for the bell. The basement was used for hot lunch and indoor activities in the winter. The fire escape, an enclosed metal chute, was located on the west side of the school. The first floor held grades 1 through 4, while the second floor housed grades 5 through 8. The library was located in a room on the southeast. My dad got our Little League baseball team going when I was just around 8 years old. All the players pitched in to improve our baseball diamond.
The Red River.
The Red River flood of 1950 put 2 feet of water in our house. Dad parked his car on the east side of town and had to put our appliances up on blocks. One time, a group of us boys made a raft that we anchored in the Red River and had a lot of fun diving off of it. My mother lost her wedding ring in the river. The river is so muddy I can see how it would be impossible to find something so small in the mud. There were some very large cottonwoods by the river that you could climb. A toboggan slide was built on the slope down to the Red River one year. You could go really fast on it, taking you all the way across the river. One nice winter afternoon, a group of us boys and one dad built a ski jump on the slope down to the Red River, where we could fly through the air maybe 10 to 15 feet. We fell our share of the time, but it was a lot of fun.
Family. Dad took the family to Walhalla to pick Juneberries one weekend. One thing that really impressed me were the Walhalla Hills. I remember Dad taking my brother and I to see the Grand Forks Chiefs, who played in the Northern League. One morning as I woke up, something made a noise in the spare room. My brother jumped out of bed and ran for the stairs. I followed, and I don't think my feet hit the ground. I got downstairs so fast. My grandfather took me to the St. Vincent Fair one day to show me all the animals and handmade items. There were sheep, cows, horses, and pigs. These were all judged, and ribbons were passed out to the winners. My dad ran a pool hall for a time, and once in a while he would take me with him when he went to clean up after the night before. They used spittoons back then, and these were yuck. I did find a penny or two on the floor, though. There was a cooler for pop, which was cooled by ice. I was fairly young when Dad took the family to Ryan's pasture, near the Red River. We brought some lunch along, and caught some bullheads that Dad cleaned up and fried over a wood fire. Games and activities.
I was an average baseball player, and once in a pickup game against Noise, I got hit in the mouth from a fly ball. If it was a really hot day, we would play a while and then take off for Turner's 80. This was a swimming hole east of town a couple of miles. It was nothing to get there because most of us had bikes. After seeing the movie The Three Musketeers, we set out to try sword fighting. We were always getting sore knuckles until someone had the bright idea of using coffee cans on our swords. Our slingshots were usually in our back pockets. Once, one of the rubber bands broke, and the slingshot slipped out of my hand and slammed back at me. It hit me just above my right eye. I still have the scar. Marbles was another summer game we played. We would make a circle on the sidewalk, and each player would put in a couple of marbles. There were usually 4 to 5 players, and each player had a larger marble called a shooter. One of the things we did during the summer to make a few cents was to go looking along the highway for beer and pop bottles. The cafe in town would pay us 2 cents for the regular bottle and 5 cents for a quart beer bottle. Once we walked the ditches almost to Humboldt, which was over 7 miles from St. Vincent. We had one of the guys on a bike, and when we found quite a few bottles, he would load the bike carrier and head for town. One winter, my dad suggested that I make a sail that would catch the wind and pull me on skis across a snow-covered field. The sail was 4 by 6 feet and was made out of heavy-duty cloth nailed to lathes. It actually worked quite well. However, my arms would get tired after a while, and then I would have to get back by skiing against the wind. Another fun thing to do in the winter was to get a group together and go skating on Lake Stella. We would build a fire at the edge of the lake to keep us warm while we put on our skates. It was fun to skate all the way to the south end and then head back. The lake was a good mile long. One Sunday afternoon, there were a lot of skaters on Lake Stella. There was a 6-foot opening where ice cutters had taken the ice out. One of the high schoolers got the bright idea of jumping across the opening in the ice. All the skaters gathered around to watch, and sure enough, he made it.
Mischief.
My high school friends and I attempted to block the main road through town one Halloween. We put some junk across the road with a stop sign in the middle. Wouldn't you know it, someone hit the mess with his car. One summer, a group of us had the bright idea of throwing green plums at cars going by on the road through town. The green plums wouldn't break anything, but would make quite a noise. We set up a trap if someone decided to chase us by tying a rope between two trees about a foot off the ground. I thought I would show the guys how we would jump over the rope. However, it was after dark, and as I jumped over the rope, my foot caught the rope and down I went. I picked myself up and tried it again, and the same thing happened. The rope came down after that, and I was a bit humbled by it all. Cap guns and firecrackers were big around the 4th of July. One of the things we liked to do was find a nice, fresh cow pie and put a firecracker in the middle. We would light it and run. Dad had a Model A Ford, and that was the car that I learned how to drive in. My dad would sometimes take a nap in the afternoon, and I and a couple of friends would get in the car and start it up, taking it on a run around the block. One Halloween, my brother and his friends put a couple of outhouses in front of the school, and one to block the back door. One of the friends had the bright idea to get some manure and threw it up by the front door. That was a smelly mess the next day.
Hunting.
I started hunting when I was in the 8th grade. Most of the hunting was done close to town because we had 3 small lakes just east of town within walking distance. Cameron Lake was the lake that was farthest north of the 3, and that is where I shot my first duck. 2 of my friends and I decided to go hunting jackrabbits one cold winter morning when it was maybe 20 below zero. It went fine for a while and we saw a few rabbits. However, one of my skis came off and my foot sank into the deep snow. Some of the snow got in my boot and melted, chilling my foot. I have never been that cold before or since, so that taught me to respect the weather. There is a place about 15 miles east of town called The Ridge, which is a rise in the landscape from the flat Red River Valley. It has some nice woody areas where you find rabbits and grouse. My dad drove me and 4 or 5 of my friends out there to live off the land like the frontiersmen in the old days. We did manage to bag a rabbit, and we made a fire and tried to cook it. The Ridge was a pretty area in the fall when the poplar trees were yellow and green. The first grouse I shot was taken out there, and it happened to be a ruffed grouse, not a sharp-tail. 2 friends and I were hunting ducks near Orleans when we jumped a deer. Shortly after, we heard a loud crack. The deer was a nice buck, and somehow it had caught its antler in a tree branch and broke its neck. A lot of our duck hunting was done at a place called the Roseau Swamp, near Caribou. While there, I spotted some ducks in a small pond. I began crawling toward them, pulling my shotgun by the barrel. Somehow, the trigger must have caught on something and there was a loud explosion next to me. That could have easily been the end of me. The only buck I ever got was taken after I got out of the army. I jumped him in a willow clump and emptied my .30-30 as he ran away. I loaded one last shot and fired when the buck was at least 200 yards away, and he dropped.
Finally, let's take a look at St. Vincent from April 2024. This first video is taken from the top of the Pembina Dike, looking east towards St. Vincent. This video is taken from the top of the St. Vincent Dike, looking to the west. The old Pembina St. Vincent Bridge has been removed, but there is still a segment of the old road left. Now we will look back to the east towards St. Vincent from the top of the dike. This is a view from the bottom of the St. Vincent Dike, looking east into St. Vincent. The Catholic Church building is still left, but is used for storage today. The old St. Vincent jail is still standing, but in a broken down state. This is an old building located near the intersection of Pacific Avenue and 4th Street. This is an old house my dad used for storage. Finally, this is the St. Vincent Public School building, which has also been repurposed. This is the old swimming hole near Turner's 80.
Thank you for coming along and looking back at some of the memories I have of growing up in the small town of St. Vincent, Minnesota.
That concludes the video. Make sure to check out my other YouTube videos and my primary website at mnbricks.com.